Let's talk about boot verbs or stem changing verbs in Spanish. All right? Now, here we're going to talk about the letter O turning to UE. Okay, now I don't want you to go crazy and write down all 30 of these verbs. I just want you to notice a pattern here. Let's look at AR verbs. For encontrar, to find or to meet, contar, to count or to tell, or acostar, to lie down. What does the O turn into? UE, 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 UE. What's the only form of an AR verb where the O does not turn into UE? The we form. Why doesn't the we form change, everybody? We keep our letter. Notice, encontrar has an O in the infinitive, so there's an O in the we form. Also, it's an AR verb, so it ends in AMOS. We keep our letter. Okay, so Mr. Holt, you're saying if it's a boot verb or stem changing verb that ends in AR with an O, the O turns into UE. Right. What about ER verbs like poder, to be able, mover, to move, or volver, to return, or to come back, or to spin? Well, look, the O turns into UE, 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 UE. What's the only form of an ER verb where the O does not turn into UE? The we form. Mr. Holt, on podemos and movemos and volvemos, why does the O not turn into UE? Because it's an ER, it's because we keep our letter. Notice, the O does not change in the we form. Also, it's an ER verb, so the we form ends in EMOS. Oh, I see. So if it's a boot verb that ends in AR or a boot verb that ends in ER and there's an O, it turns into UE. Right. But Mr. Holt, what about IR verbs like dormir, to sleep, or morir, to die? Well, notice, for IR verbs, what does the O turn into? UE, 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 UE. What's the only form of an IR verb where the O does not turn into UE? The we form. Why doesn't the O turn into UE in the we form? Because we keep our letter. And since it's an IR verb, the we form ends in IMOS. Now, so you get it. If it's a boot verb with an O, if it's AR, the O turns into UE. If it's an ER verb, the O turns into UE. If it's an IR verb, the O turns into UE. What's the only form that doesn't change? The we form. Now, here's what I want you to realize. Some people go crazy and they assume every Spanish verb that has an O is going to be a boot verb. No. The yo form of comer is yo como. Mr. Holt, why doesn't the O turn into UE? Comer is not a boot verb. It doesn't turn into yo quemo. Everybody say poner. Poner. The she form of poner is pone. Mr. Holt, doesn't every O turn into UE? No. There are some verbs in Spanish that are boot verbs, but there are lots that are not. So please, please, please do not assume every time you see an O in Spanish it's going to turn into UE. It's just some verbs that do that. All right, that's boot verbs, O to UE.